morning, if I were to title the sermon as something, it's called Press On. Let's turn to Philippians chapter 3, verses 12 to 13. I'm going to try and keep myself together most of the sermon. The interesting thing is, I don't believe I'm the first one, and I don't think I'm the only one this morning. I believe God wants to speak to a lot of us this morning. Philippians chapter 3, verses 12 to 13. Not that I've already obtained all of this, or have already arrived at my goal. I press on.
Turn Daniel up on one more.
But I press on to take hold of that for which Christ has took hold for me. Brothers and sisters, I do not consider myself yet to have taken hold of it. But one thing I do, forgetting what is behind and straining towards what's ahead. Bow your heads. Heavenly Father, just come before you this morning. Father, I thank you, God, for this sermon. I thank you, God, for your word that brings life into us when we need it. I thank you, Lord, because, Lord, you've given me this word. And I pray now, Lord, that you would help me to deliver this word. Lord, I pray today that we would open up our hearts, our minds, our soul, and receive what you have for us. In Jesus' name. I don't know if anybody's noticed, but we're halfway through 2013. Has anybody noticed that yet? Some of us have set financial goals. Others, we've set relationship goals. And others, family goals, spiritual goals, or physical goals. My goal this year was to try and lose some weight. I have not already obtained all this. I have not obtained all this. Forgetting what is behind, striving for what is ahead. It's not over yet. 2013 is not over yet. I got time. Some may have figured to set a goal of not setting any goal. So that way you won't be disappointed at all. A lot of people try and do that at the beginning of the year and they say, you know what, let me just, I'm not even shoot for anything. If I don't shoot for anything, then I'll have accomplished stuff. Then what are we striving for? On our journey in life and in our spiritual life and our personal life and many other aspects, we have goals and we have things that we want to attain. We have things that we want to see come to pass. Sometimes we don't get to see those things happen. Sometimes it's because we just stop too soon. Thomas Edison was a well-known inventor. Said it like this. He said, "Many of life's failures are people who did not realize how close they were to success when they gave up." Don't give up. You just might miss it. You might be just that close. We might give up because we fell, we have anxiety, we're too tired, and we don't get back up. We may never realize the great things God can do through us and for us. We may not reach our goal because we don't know. We don't know how to talk to or turn to, how to recover and rest, or how to go one more round. So this morning I would like to encourage you. I want to give you a word of encouragement. With some of the promises that God gives us, when these moments in life come up and they face us, or they blindside us, I want you to think about your life as we start talking about this. The very first one I want to go to is we need to talk to Him. We need to talk to God. We need to cast all our cares on Him. Stop carrying it around. Because it's not yours. You and I have got cares, we've got goals, we've got things that we struggle with. But we'll never move on until we give it to Him. We'll never move on until we cast that care on Him. Go to 1 Peter chapter 5, verse 7. 1 Peter chapter 5, verse 7. Mario has it up on their screen if you need it. 1 Peter chapter 5, verse 7, it says, "Cast all your anxiety on Him, because He cares for you." He didn't say cast some of this. He's not picking and choosing what He wants to hear from you. He wants to hear everything. It's not like Jesus is sitting there and saying, "I'll listen to that. Wait, I don't want to hear it." He says, cast all your anxieties on Him. Whether it's big, whether it's small, because He cares for us. Try to think of somebody who cares for somebody, and the only thing I can think of related to immediately is a mother. As a mother cares for her child, she doesn't pick and choose how to care for him. She cares for him fully. How much more our God? What cares or anxieties do you and I have in life? And I started thinking about some of the cares and anxieties that maybe I might have went through, or maybe you might be facing today, or may have blindsided you. You lost your job. You recently lost your job. You have no job. And the anxiety that's weighing on you, you don't know what to do with it. And it's just biting away at you and biting away at you. It's funny because I work as a assistant manager at a bank. And I mean, my next point, an upcoming performance review, we just did that right now with our employees. They were really happy. I can say that, thank God. There's anxieties that we go through in our life that sometimes we don't know how to get rid of it. We don't know how to talk to somebody about it. It's someone else's problems that are giving you anxiety. We all know that too well. I'm sure we do. It could be your spouse. Don't say it out loud. Your spouse giving you anxiety this morning. Or your kids giving you anxiety. You know, and I think about when Jesus went to the Garden of Gethsemane and and he took his disciples with him. He shared with his disciples what he said. And he said, my soul hurts and is filled with sorrow to the point of death. He had somebody to share it with. Do you and I have somebody that we share it with? It's really important that you and I have somebody that we can go to, somebody that we can talk to, somebody we can reach out to. Because there are a lot of times in life where a lot of people just don't know how to get rid of something. They don't know how to let something out. They keep it bottled in, and it eats at them. Try and keep it somewhat light, too. Mario gets ready for this video. I hope you and I, we have somebody we can go to. We have somebody we can dump our anxieties off on. That is willing to listen. But sometimes there's a way to do it, and sometimes there's just a way not to do it if you can take off all the lights. And let me just show you really quickly how not to do it.
Husband records his wife's emotional meltdown and then throws it up on YouTube. It goes viral, and now they're getting a divorce. Take a look.
But I never did. I wanted one day where I can. One day! I can go on the way!
It's okay. That's the best part about this. Now you're going to text everybody.
I am because I want to go on the way!
So you're going to make me look like a bad guy. So
You are! You're not taking your wife out on the lake that we've been hunting for! Please! I'm about to go crazy!
That's sad. You think about sometimes you and I, we dump off our anxieties on people, and we do it in the wrong way. Now, mind you, this lady was going crazy because she wanted to go to the lake. I wish I had that anxiety. Sometimes you and I, there are other anxieties that actually ail us. There are other anxieties that you and I deal with that are bigger than that. We have a child that doesn't want to listen. We have a spouse that doesn't serve God. Or do we do like the world does? Like the world not care? I mean, sometimes that's what's different about you and I. You and I, we have Christ. We should care. We should have that compassion in our heart to say, I care about that. And sometimes it can become a burden on you, that it is an anxiety that you have to go to God about. Is it your past failures or your sins that you're holding on to? And they're holding you back because of guilt. Because you haven't forgiven yourself. You haven't let that go. God, you don't know what I've done. If you only knew what I did. Yes, he does. He knows what we've done. We just got to give it to him. Stop struggling with it. Stop carrying it with you. Stop holding on to it.
Water.
And give it to God.
We don't have like that.
Give it to God. Do we cast them on Him? We need to, because we aren't meant to carry that anxiety. We're not meant to carry that. We're not meant to hold on to these things. The battle's not ours. The Bible clearly states that the battle is God's, and it's not ours. Go to 2 Chronicles chapter 20, verse 15. I want to share with you. 2 Chronicles chapter 20, verse 15. He said, listen, King Jehoshaphat, and all who live in Judah and Jerusalem. This is what the Lord says to you. Do not be afraid or be discouraged because of this vast army. For the battle is not yours, but God's. Give it to God. Stop holding on to it and press on. Maybe you've given it to God you feel like you can't go on anymore. You just can't anymore. Because you're tired of trying. I know what that's like. I know what it's like when you're tired of trying to do something. You're trying to do right. You're trying to be right. Well, we don't need to try to be right. We just got to give it to God. And let Him deal with that. Surrender that to God. Point number 2 is we need to rest. We need to know how we rest. The Bible is clear about how you and I need to find rest. I can't go on anymore because I'm tired. But Matthew chapter 11, verse 28 to 30. Turn to Matthew chapter 28, verses 11. Matthew chapter 11, verses 28 to 30. He says, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." Not that bottle. Not that other vice that's out there that sometimes we go to. But the other thing that we do to just try and get about it. It's not our strength. We can't run to our strength and say, because we've tried. You and I have tried. We've tried to do this on our own, and we can't. It says, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy, and my burden is light." Is there something that you've been dealing with for a long time? And if there is, then we need to press on. A sick child, is it a spouse, a brother, a sister, mother, or father? Then come to Him and press on. Because God says that He will give you rest. Tired because we've tried and we've tried and we've tried, and nothing seems to be happening. Nothing seems to be changing. Has anybody been there? Has anybody done that? Are you going through it? When this verse says that all who are weary and burdened, it could be that you and I, and that's more clearly where it's going, is that you and I have been trying to do things our own way. And that's why He says, "Come to me, you who are weary and burdened." You who are trying on your own, stop trying. God is saying, stop trying. You don't need to do it yourself. And it could be because of that. We've been trying to do things our own way. We've been trying to do things to make it right. That causes us this exhaustion, that causes us this tiredness of, I can't go on anymore. Is it worth it to keep going? And we start having doubts. We need to do things God's way. Jesus is calling on weary souls to come to Him because He promises relief. He promises rest and refreshment for the soul. He doesn't promise us. God never promised you and I this whole verse right here, these 3 verses, or 2 verses. I know I said we're going to be. These 2 verses, they're talking about work. Jesus didn't promise us no work. Jesus didn't promise to say that there was not going to be work, that it wasn't going to be work. It's work. But the thing is are we doing this on our own? Because the next thing He talks about a yoke. And I don't know if you and I don't know if many of you know what a yoke is. But a yoke was placed on cattle, was placed on bulls to be able to work together. So that way they would share that workload together. Is anybody making that connection yet? He said, "Take my yoke upon you and learn from me." See, you and I, we try. When God is just because you're just going to die on your own. You're going to die trying. See, and that's what the yoke was. The yoke helped these two animals. It helped them to be able to share that workload. Jesus doesn't want you working that alone. Jesus wants to work it with you. He wants to help you through that process. Can you just imagine that? That yoke being around you and Jesus. And saying, just walk with me. Because this is where I want you to go. This is how you're going to do it. Jesus wants us to share that workload and accomplish things for Him. Because when we start working for Him, when we start accomplishing things for God the way God wants us to accomplish them, everything in our life will fall in place. I mean, it's going to follow through. The rest for our souls may also be the peace that surpasses all understanding. And that's what He's talking about. He said, I will give you rest. I'm not going to give you just something that's going to last for now. I'm going to give you joy, not just happiness, but joy. I'm going to give you something that will supersede what you're having right now. Even when things don't seem to go the way you want them to, the peace is going to be there for you to be able to accept God's will for your life. Have you ever been there where things just don't go your way? You're breaking apart because you don't know why. When Jesus says, come to me, you who are weary and heavy burdened, I will give you rest. You see, when He says that He's going to give you rest, it's rest that will ultimately help you understand and accept God's will, regardless of which way it goes. And there's going to be that peace that says, God is still God. God is still on the throne. I know I'm going through this. I know I didn't get this. But God is still God. The other day I was sitting at home and I was going over this. And I was going over this. I started listening to different songs. And there's this one song that came on, I can't remember the artist of it. It says, even if the healing doesn't come. My wife looked at me, she said, what's wrong? And it made me think of my brother. He's battling cancer right now. And I said, I know he's tired of this. He's tired, but I can feel that he's got to a point where he's accepted. And he knows whether it's this way or that way, glory be to God. Because He's given me life up till now. He's let me share this side with my brother and my sisters. He's given me this type of faithfulness. So this morning, we need to come to Him. We need to give rest and press on. Amen? Number 3. Simply, plain put, press on. Philippians chapter 3, verses 12 to 13, what we started with. Philippians chapter 3, verses 12 and 13. Not that I've already attained all this, or have already arrived at my goal, but I press on. And I'm skipping forward to the last part. It says, but one thing I do, forgetting what is behind and straining towards what is ahead. You see, you and I we need to press on. Sometimes you and I are going to go through things in life. We're going to be hurt. We're going to be down. We're going to be hurting. And sometimes these things from behind are going to try and drag us down. But you and I got to press on. We've got to forget what's happened, forget what the circumstances, forget how beat down we are, and move on. be able to accept what your will is. You see, like a fighter in a ring, Marty gets the next one ready and says, like a fighter in a ring talks to their trainers, are we talking to God? Do we talk to God? Like a fighter rests in between rounds, are you coming to God to get rest? Like a fighter, they suck it up. Previous rounds were in the past. Yes, I may be hurting. Yes, I may be messed up. And yes, the opponent's big. And yes, I might look ugly right now. But it doesn't matter because I'm getting up. It doesn't matter because there's one more round. See, God wants us to be able to get up again. I know sometimes I have this other side of me that I'm like, oh, you know. And you and I, we gotta have that side to us. There's a right way, there's a wrong way to have it. Let me tell you something. This past Wednesday I can't tell you what I went through. Because it's not right to say that up here. Or anywhere. I can't believe the words that came out of her mouth. I mean, you think about it, we gotta go one more round. Do you know how many men in the Bible, and before we even get to that story, do you know how many men in the Bible, had they given up, we may have not known them as the greatest men in the Bible. To name a few, Abraham. He failed to believe that God would give him a son. He slept with someone else's wife, someone else who wasn't his wife, but God didn't give up on him. I'm not condoning that. Don't get me wrong. Leave this place and say I gotta press on. Jacob was a thief, and God allowed him to bless the world through his children. Once again, I'm not condoning being a thief. Noah found grace in the eyes of the Lord, survived the flood, but ended up getting drunk. I don't condone that either. Moses stuttered and was a murderer, but he pressed on. David committed adultery with Bathsheba and then murdered her husband to hide his failing. Yet David became known as a man after God's own heart. We press on. And that's what every one of these men did. They pressed on. They didn't stop where they were. They pressed on. You see, pressing on in the year of 2013, Christina, my children, and I, it's been quite a journey this year. It has been quite a journey. Starting from last year to this year, we changed insurance companies for our medical, our dental, our medical. I was worried about how it was going to go, and I said, well, maybe it won't be so bad. Maybe we'll be all right. I thought about years previous, we really wouldn't go to the doctor much. We never really did go to the doctor, other than having the 2 children. We don't get sick really. But then on January 17th, Ariana gets the flu. Mind you, we have like a $3,000 family deductible, a $1,500 co-insurance pay for family that we have to meet. So she gets sick, and we have to get prescriptions, and that was on a Thursday on January 17th. And we get the prescriptions, and I'm like, oh, it should be fine, it shouldn't be that bad. $65 for medicine, and I was like, how is this happening? I was like, we're not ready for something like this. 19th, clear as day. I'm heading to work on Saturday. Late. Kind of like always. Late. And it was my fault. Thank God that nobody else was involved. Because it would have been horrific. Coming to work down the 180, passing Peach, and I'm flying going 80, 82. And as I'm going, I'm driving, all of a sudden, you know, I'm looking either at my speed, I don't remember exactly which one it was. I look up, my eyes come up, I'm in the far left lane, the fast lane, and I see this huge piece of cardboard. And you're probably like, well, Daniel, really? Mind you, I would normally go through anything, and I would just like go head on and just run right through it. But this cardboard was the size of the car and could have literally covered my car. So I couldn't see over what was on the other side. When my eyes came up, I was a split second from hitting it. And within an instant, I said, God, I was like, God, please don't let there be somebody stopped on the other side. Please don't let there be somebody standing on the other side. So I swerved to the right immediately. And then I swerved to the left. Mind you, we have a 2007 Honda Accord. You figure, you know, it should be stable. Then again, that speed. I swerved back to the left to correct myself because I got scared because I didn't look to my right side to see if I was going to hit somebody. And as soon as I swerved back to the left to get back in my lane, all I felt was the back of my car just whoosh. And my stomach went with it. It was the ugliest feeling ever. All I felt was the tires turn, go the opposite way, and my car was in a complete spin. Spun 3 times, and all I remember is I locked up. I pushed myself back into the seat, and I locked my arms really hard, and all I remember was doing this, and seeing everything on top of the freeway, on the side, the houses. I spun 3 times. I hit the back side of my passenger side first. Spun around again, hit the front side of my driver's side. And then I spun around one more time and I hit the front side of my passenger side. And that last time that I hit, it shot me straight back across the freeway. And the first thing that went into my head when I first started speaking, I said, God, I just saw my family. I saw my 2 kids, I saw my wife. My mom, when I told her the story later, she's like, what about me? She's like, Mom, I'm sorry. I thought about you later. But in an instant, you think of your family immediately. And after that, I thought, first thought was my wife and my kids, and I was like, I'm going to die. I was like, I'm not going to see them anymore. My second thought was, I saw myself bloodied in the hospital. Hospital just so battered up. And I said, this is going to be expensive. And then the third hit, I started shooting back. And that's when I'm going across all 3 lanes. And I turn to my left, my hands locked in. And I look, and I see the cars coming right at me. And I said, God. And I felt the car slowing down right in the middle lane. And I just, at that moment, I just said, God, I was like, don't let me feel a thing. Just hit me now. I would tell my wife that later on. And I told her, I go, I'm sorry, whether I prayed that. I didn't pray that God would keep me safe. I said, God, don't let me feel anything. And I would get shot straight back, and all of a sudden, because it felt like it was slowing down, it just felt like something just grabbed me from the back of the car and just pulled me straight up against the embankment on the side of the 180. I don't know how it happened. All I can say was God. All I can say is it was God. I would get out of that car, my face not bruised, not hurt, not a scratch, nothing on me. My windows didn't even break. So I'm pretty good at this. At least you'll know you're safe. And I would get out of the car, and so long story short, let me finish it really quickly, but the officers would come to me and say, you know, do you want us to call somebody? spent less than 2 hours there in close meeting. Less than 2 hours there. Didn't see a doctor, didn't get a bed, didn't get a needle in me, didn't get nothing. Got a little this. You're good. Oh, like this. Okay, you're good. Oh, you got a little bit of whiplash. You'll be fine. Let me give you some Vicodin and some muscle relaxers. All right. So I got me that. And I was thinking, I was like, cool. I was like, this is gonna be good. I was like, it's gonna be, we'll get out of this, with a cheap price. $1,700 later. I was so mad. I said, God, I was like, I can't do this. I don't know what I'm gonna do. The following week, my son would get the flu for my daughter and would go to the ER because it was on a Saturday at 6 o'clock with fever. Another $400 bill. I said, God, I was like, I can't do this. Then there's the funny thing. For the last couple of summers, my wife's going to school, she's doing the thing. But it's difficult because as a sub, you don't have summer work. There's that shortfall financially. And I said, God, I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'm going to press on. I'm going to press on regardless. I know what everything that's happened early this year. Things that are still carrying forward this year. And our next 2 months that are ahead. But I'm going to press on and I'm going to move on. Then last week and this week, 3 long days I had to open and close at work. Short staff, 8:30 to 7 o'clock. Bible study on Wednesday. Came straight from work at 7:30. Had to teach Bible study and then went home. Mind you, it was extremely hot. It was like 90 degrees in here. Worked 6 days next week and open, close shifts again. Last Wednesday when I came to preach Bible study, and I'm going right back to that. I can't tell you some of the things that this lady said, but all I know is it had to start with the word about a mom. The word was mom there, but the other word. I got called that, I want to say, about 20 times in about a 5-minute period. And I sat there looking at her, and I just, the whole time I'm thinking, I'm like, I can hum. And I kept my cool, and my employee would come to me afterwards, and she'd be like, how did you do that? She goes, how could you sit there, take it, and not say a word? She goes, how could you not react to her? I said, I go, years of abuse after working here? I'm just like, I'm joking. You learn to deal with people. And you learn that, you know what? I got to give it to God. And trust me, I was giving it to God at that moment. I was like, God, please handle her. And then this past Friday, after my softball game, coming home, my right shoulder's killing me, my elbow's killing me. I having to take muscle relaxers because it's hurting really bad. My wife's thirsty, and it's hot as could be. She's like, babe, she's so thirsty, she can't stop, she's going to get water. As we drove down Shaw by Armstrong, my wife, she's telling me this, and I said, we can stop at Foster's. Stop at Foster's Freeze. And she looks at me, she's like, are you sure it's water that you want? And I was like, sure, it's water that I want. And so we get, as we're there, we're still waiting on the line. She goes, because if it's a dip home, we can go to McDonald's. And they're cheap. And I said, it's water that I want. At that moment, I gave it to God, and I said, God, I cast my anxiety on him. I said, Lord, this woman's telling me about a dip home. I don't know how to deal with this, God. And the next thing you know, we make the U-turn. And I press on, and we press on past Foster's, and we go to St. Mark. My wife would go inside, and you thank you, God. Because you help me press on. You help me press on. And I'm trying to find this. And then she comes back, and she's pulling out the water, and she's like, here, baby, here you go. She's giving one to Shiloh, she's giving one to Ariana, and she's like, said, no more! One more round. And I finally won that round because there was no more left. This morning, I try to make light, I try to make light of this, but you know what? You and I have got things in our life that we're dealing with that are hard, that are more than an ice cream ball, that are more than going to the lake. This morning, you may be here thinking, well, that's funny, Pastor Daniel, but I got something else that's way worse than that. You may be worried about something, but you need to cast your cares on Him and press on. You may be tired of something, but God is telling you this morning, come to me and press on. Because He will give you rest to press on. So this morning, I challenge you. Stop carrying it around. Stop holding on to that thing that's holding you back. Give it to God.